Welcome, everybody. It is Arkey Hodges here, president of the Black Achievement Fund, and we are here today with another info session on what is the Black
I had
Achievement
planned
Fund.
on being there.
What is this organization that I've been hearing about, asking the whole Black community
Cool.
for
All right.
$9? We make the best of everything. A month.
Everything. That's
Hold on,
it.
sorry.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Welcome, everybody. It is
seems
Arkey
like
Hodges here, president of the Black Achievement Fund, and we are here today with another info session on what is the Black. I'm sorry, I'm getting some feedback. Hold on one second. What is this organization that I've been hearing about, asking the whole Black community for
All right.
$9?
We make the best of everything.
A month. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. We're getting some feedback on our Zoom. I'm back. Welcome once again. This is Arkey Hodges here, president of the Black Achievement Fund, and we are broadcasting live from our Kemet Club here in Atlanta, Georgia. And today, in addition to giving you our 5-minute elevator pitch on what the Black Achievement Fund is to get you on board, we are going to be doing some more education. And today we're going to go to the West Coast. We don't talk much about Black pioneers on the West Coast, and the West Coast doesn't get a lot of mention in Black history, period. So I'm very happy today to be able to highlight one of our West Coast pioneers, Colonel Allensworth. So we're going to be talking about the story of the town of Allensworth. All right, so for those of you who don't know what the Black Achievement Fund is and are here to get an overview, we will do just that. Give me 1 second. The Black Achievement Fund is a nonprofit organization. Our mission is to finance the grand development of Black America and beyond through a simple system of collective economics, or UJAMA. 10 million Black people and our allies, plus $9 a month, equals $90 million every single month, $1 billion every single year. Very simple. The Black Achievement Fund is a nonprofit. With this capital, we will economically empower Black people and build new Black communities, institutions, and municipalities that reflect our guiding principles and collective genius. One of the key words in that last paragraph is municipalities. A municipality is essentially a city. It grants us the power to be in control of the political, social, and economic affairs of every community, of every aspect of our municipality or our town. When I talk to Black people today and tell them that the Black Achievement Fund is building our own city, they look at me as if I'm saying something incredulous. They look at me as if I'm saying that one day we're going to have a Black president. Oops, we actually did, right? Okay. Now, when I tell them, did you know that Black people built their own cities all across the country? Hundreds of Black cities, countless Black cities over and over again, where they made themselves the mayor, the police chief, so on and so forth. This is a power that is within our grasp as Black people here in America to be able to fully exercise our rights to govern ourselves and the communities in which we live. It is the only power. Having a Black president was fine, but what is more meaningful is Black people being in physical control of the cities that we create and have the apparatus to protect these cities. All right? Our mission is one of the most simple aspects of the Black liberation struggle. Our ancestors during the Civil Rights Movement had to physically be in the streets. They had to risk their lives. They had to risk the lives of their children. They had to march in all types of weather. They had to boycott and walk because they weren't riding the buses. The level of sacrifices that our ancestors had to make for us to arrive at this moment, it was astronomical. And now we're at the point in the Black liberation struggle where all we have to do is stand up and assert all of the freedoms that we have at our disposal that was given to us by our ancestors. When I think about what does Black liberation mean, if someone asks me, what does Black liberation mean to me? The answer is very simple. Sovereignty, the self-determination, one word. Was that two words, self-determination? Anyway, all right. I want to be able to control the environment in which I exist. I want to be able to affect the changes in my community without having to dilute my voice or play all of this outside politics. When we build our own city, we build our own institutions, we can have free healthcare, free dental care. We can create as many parks and recreational places as we want. We can have as many police officers as necessary to protect our interests. But you have to have an economic foundation in order to be able to develop a city and then to sustain a city. So what the Black Achievement Fund is doing right now, we are developing the full panoramic skill sets needed in order for us to build our own city in which we collectively and independently, individually own all of the land in this community. All right? Today, when you think about Black communities, you don't think about Black cities. You don't think about the Black municipalities that exist. We completely abandoned that whole process of starting our own cities in favor of whole-scale integration. And as we've been chronicling these Black cities over the past 2 months or so, we've been seeing that even the poorest cities, even the poorest Black municipalities, there is a level of freedom and ownership that is absolutely priceless. I talked to one of our members who now lives in Ghana, and she moved there 2 years ago. And I asked her, what is the biggest highlight about your move to Ghana? And she said, there is a sense of freedom when you just put race down. There's a sense of freedom in being somewhere where you know that your race isn't something that is not wanted, isn't something that is, targeted. Just the sense of freedom in and of itself. So that is what the Black Achievement Fund is bringing to the Black leadership establishment. We are an organization that is here to city build. Our job is to build as many cities all across the United States as we possibly can. And all of these cities will be iconic cities, not just for Black Americans, but for people the world over. We want to demonstrate that we, under a Black worldview, an African worldview, can create a better society than the one that we're under right now. That's our mission. We know that we can do it, but we need your help to do it. All right? We need your help to do it. We need your commitment to the mission. We need your $9 every month. If you know you're a member and you have not seen your $9 come out, please contact our customer service and make sure that those funds are coming out. Because at the end of the day, the model that we have is already bearing fruit. We're not waiting on 10 million people. Right now, today, we have our own social club that we've operated now for 2 years. This place is not only a place for our members to come and hang out and study and to conduct business, but it's also a hub for Black nonprofits in the Atlanta area. We have host all types of nonprofit meetings and annual meetings and you name it. So we are practicing what we're preaching, and we're showing that we're already having tremendous results in terms of recycling our wealth back into the Black community. Of this money that you give us every month, we are recycling that money back into our community. When you hear that the Black dollar used to recycle in the Black community 9, 10, 11, 12 times, that means that a dollar in my hand is spent with another Black person in my community. That person is spending that dollar with another business in that community. That person is spending that dollar with another person within that community. But the money is staying within our community. All right? So for those of you who are on the sidelines saying, let me wait until I see 10,000 people. Let me wait until I see 20,000 people. Right now, every single month, we're having a tremendous impact on our community by using our capital to pay the people who make t-shirts, the people who do graphic design, the people who do web development, the Black CPAs, the Black attorneys, the Black contractors. All of these people that are a part of our operations as the Black Achievement Fund are being paid out of this $9. So this is yet another way that this mission not only will enable us to establish our own institutions like our own hospitals and museums and dental clinics and schools and maintain them, but it's also putting capital back into our business people's hands, back into our entrepreneurs' hands. When we did the story of Black Eden, one of the videos that we watched was called The Town That Segregation Built. And it was caused that because Black people were forced to only do business with Black people. As soon as integration became the new standard, the new thing of the day, we abandoned our community and went and began to spend money outside of our community. In turn, white people didn't start now spending their money in Black businesses. So the entire Black business sector collapsed all across the country, all across the country. We're here with the Black Achievement Fund to restore this. One of the best ways to restore this is by us building our own cities that will need the services of a multitude of Black businesses, utilizing the capital that comes in to subsidize these Black businesses so that they can provide us with a higher quality of goods, service, so on and so forth. This is just a sample of what we're achieving with this simple model of Ujamaa, 10 million Black people and our allies. One of the reasons why we kept it under $10 a month was because we wanted our entire community to be able to be an agent of her or his own liberation. We wanted to demonstrate the power of the individual. We can't do any of the work that we're doing if you don't play your part. The United States of America raised over $4.4 trillion in primarily property taxes last year, which became the United States of America's budget. the wealthiest nation on the planet. What we're saying to our community, $9 out of your $50,000 a year salary, your $30,000 a year salary, $108 a year can set us on the path of economic independence that will enable us to begin the process of rebuilding our entrepreneurship class, rebuilding Black businesses. But there has to be a plan. None of these things are going to happen if we do not have organizations in which this is their plan to do. The Black Achievement Fund is that organization. And we're not playing around. We already have 100+ acre site that we're developing our first community. And that is our New Kemet retreat and residential community. This is a virgin piece of land. This is an image from our Juneteenth and ribbon cutting ceremony. But one of the things that, once again, we're saying to our people, we have the full ability to complete the final stage of the African liberation struggle, and that is self-determination. We have all of the tools, all of the models. We have everything that we need to take the world by storm and to do it on our own terms, not on somebody else's terms. All right? The Black Achievement Fund's inspiration is ancient Kemet, as you may be able to tell from everything that we do, from our Kemet Club here in Atlanta, our new Kemet retreat in Middle Georgia, so on and so forth. And we chose Kemet as our inspiration because this was the highest personification of African spirituality and African genius. So much so that the foundation of all of the world's modern civilizations have their blueprint in ancient Kemet. There is no people on this planet that can claim that the people who built ancient Kemet was theirs except Black African people. And the non-African world have banded together to colonize information about world history and to literally paint African people out of the history of ancient Kemet, even though from the very first dynasty all the way to the New Kingdom, every pharaoh was African, and these pharaohs were marrying women of Nubian descent, and their children became rulers. So there has been every effort to deny African people our brilliance, to deny that we have the ability to govern ourselves, that we have the ability to create a modern civilization with technological advances. This is what they have told the world. So here we are, the Black Achievement Fund, saying not so fast, not so fast. So everything that we do is inspired by ancient Kemet. I want to make sure that we give proper time for Allensworth. So I'm going to go ahead and start our short video, and then we'll have a little bit more discussion. All right. This is Allensworth, the only California town founded and financed by Blacks. All right. I didn't even know that Black people had financed towns in California at all. So this was a treat when I came across this a few weeks ago. All right, so let's get into it.
History when blacks were being At a time in history when blacks were being lynched on a weekly basis, and the U.S. Supreme Court essentially legalized racism in the form of Jim Crow segregation, blacks headed west in a desperate quest to achieve an idealized notion of American freedom. Dusty frontier towns were transitioning from being Mexican territories to part of the new Union state of California by September of 1850. California joined the Union as a free state, and this attracted blacks who were navigating life post-slavery. One of those blacks, an escaped slave who became the highest-ranking black officer in the Union Army, was Colonel Allensworth. He led 4 other black men in founding the first and only town in California that was fully funded, designed, built, governed, and populated exclusively by black people. Let's dive into that history. Allensworth, the only California town founded and financed by blacks. Written and narrated by Daniel J. Middleton. While life at the turn of the century was hard for blacks due to forces outside their community, disparity also existed within. This was highlighted most prominently in the ongoing debate between W.E.B. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, 2 great leaders of that period. While both men strongly advocated for black social and economic progress, they made a public show of their sharp disagreement on the process by which these measures were to be accomplished. Directly in the midst of this civil rights quandary and heightened racial discrimination,
Volume.
Sorry. Uh-oh, hold on 1 second.
Allensworth, the author Charles Alexander, relying on a primary source, writes, his mother was the slave of Mrs. A.P. Starbird of Louisville, and as soon as Allen was old enough to be of any service, he was given to Mrs. Starbird's son, Thomas, to be his little nigger, as was the prevailing custom among such people at that time. It became apparent quite early that Allensworth was not going to abide a life of slavery. At around the age of 12, he was sold downriver to Mississippi for trying to learn how to read and write by playing school with young Thomas, and twice he attempted unsuccessful escapes. A third attempt, when the Civil War was already raging, resulted in Allensworth finding freedom at last. The war seemed to beckon Allensworth, who offered his service to the 44th Illinois Volunteer Infantry as a civilian nursing aide, but the post did not satisfy his desire to help the war effort. To that end, he joined the Union Navy on April 3, 1863, becoming a first-class seaman at a salary of $18 per month. His pay quickly increased to $30 thereafter, and he served on various gunboats, including the Queen City, the Pittsburgh, and the Cincinnati. Allensworth started out as a clerk and the captain's steward, but rose to the rank of first-class petty officer. After completing his service at the end of the war, he was honorably discharged on April 4, 1865, 11 days prior to the assassination of President Lincoln. Allensworth had the privilege of reuniting with his mother in Louisville briefly following the war. Then he traveled to Mound City, Illinois to secure work. The Mound City Naval Yard hired him as a commissary or clerk to the commandant, and that lasted till 1867, when he decided to pool savings with his brother William and go into business for himself. That resulted in 2 restaurants located in different parts of St. Louis, which met with success from the start. After receiving an attractive offer from a prospective buyer, the brothers sold the establishments and Allensworth left his brother back in St. Louis while he moved on to new pastures. According to Charles Alexander, Allensworth's mother, Phyllis, told him that he was named for Bishop Allen, the respected preacher of the African Methodist Episcopal AME Church, whom she hoped her son would one day emulate. Allensworth must have taken this to heart because after experiencing a religious conversion, he became a minister during Reconstruction. Allensworth accomplished this by enrolling at the Baptist Theological Institute, now Roger Williams University, in Nashville, Tennessee, where he studied theology. And it was there that he met and married Josephine Lavelle, an accomplished organist and music teacher. Allensworth settled down to a quiet life in his native Louisville, where he preached from several pulpits. His mother, Phyllis, lived with them for a few months until she passed away in 1878 at age 96. But joy filled the home once more when the couple had 2 children together, named Eva and Nella. The success of Allensworth's ministry also led to a political calling, and he served as a Kentucky delegate to the Republican National Convention in 1880 and 1884, being the first and only Black delegate in Chicago both years. Back in his day, the Republican Party was synonymous with Abraham Lincoln and civil rights, and therefore attracted a considerable amount of Blacks. While life in Louisville was good, Allensworth was not allowed to rest on his laurels. In his book, Notable Southern Californians in Black History, author Robert Lee Johnson writes, in 1882, the United States military had 2 cavalry units and 2 infantry units that were segregated. One of the complaints was that there were not any Black chaplains. A Black soldier approached Reverend Allensworth to discuss the issue. Allensworth learned that the chaplain of the 24th Infantry, which was one of the Buffalo Soldier regiments, was planning to retire in 4 years. This caused him to spring into action. Allensworth embarked on a tireless campaign to win the support of Southern Democrats and Republicans in office. And then he sent letters to the office of the Adjutant General, a chief army official, and President Grover Cleveland himself, laying out a persuasive argument for his cause. His efforts paid off because on April 1st, 1886, he was appointed as chaplain of the 24th Infantry by President Cleveland with the rank of captain. He was one of only 2 Black chaplains at the time, but for the next 20 years, Allensworth served faithfully in his new military role while keeping a watchful eye on the men entrusted to his care. Upon retiring in 1906, Allensworth attained the rank of lieutenant colonel, being the first Black man in history to do so. He led his family to Los Angeles, but a quiet retirement was not in the equation for Allensworth. The country was still in the fierce grip of racial discrimination under which Blacks suffered. They were victims of disenfranchisement, segregation, and prevalent lynching, and Los Angeles, despite being part of a free state, was no exception. Allensworth sided with Booker T. Washington in his debate with W.E.B. Du Bois. Washington propagated the idea of Blacks being self-sufficient and unified in a collective cause that was beneficial to the culture. While some of his views were controversial, Washington's message also centered on Blacks taking up agricultural pursuits as a colony, where they would be free of racial oppression. Other Los Angeles residents sympathized with Washington's view as well, namely teacher and scholar William Payne, Nevada miner John A. Palmer, AME minister William H. Peck, and realtor Harry A. Mitchell. Allensworth joined forces with them, and together, the 5 gentlemanly-looking Negro men, as the Delano holograph labeled them on June 13, 1908, set out to create an all-Black community in California. Back then, whites who followed the logic of British scientist Francis Galton, creator of the field of eugenics, a Greek word meaning well-born, believed that Blacks were genetically inferior. Allensworth and his 4 colleagues were bent on countering the biological racism by establishing a town where Blacks, particularly soldiers from the nation's 4 all-Black regiments, could enjoy opportunities denied them by systems and communities controlled by whites. In this agricultural colony, each soldier would have a decent home where his family could live safely and in peace while he was off fighting for his country. To make the dream a reality, on June 30th, 1908, Colonel Allensworth and his associates created the California Colony and Home Promoting Association. Allensworth turned to the church community to raise the funds necessary for a land purchase. and while he succeeded in doing this, landowners refused to sell to him. In time, a white-owned Los Angeles land development syndicate known as Pacific Farming Company approached the eager buyer. About 30 miles north of Bakersfield lay 800 acres of fertile land in rural Toledo, California, that was up for sale. Not only did the Pacific Farming Company sell the land deed they signed stated that they were to supply the future town with a water system equal to the needs of its residents. On August 3, 1908, the association filed a township site plan with the Tulare County Recorder for Toledo, which had a convenient station that connected Los Angeles and San Francisco on the Santa Fe Railroad. That very year, Toledo was renamed Allensworth in honor of its most celebrated founder. A council form of government was chosen to administer town affairs. It was known as the Allensworth Progressive Association, of which both men and women held various positions of responsibility. Officers were routinely elected by townspeople, and during town meetings, residents were encouraged to participate in civic affairs. The township attracted Black families who moved there with enthusiasm. Within a year, Allensworth was home to 35 families. By 1912, the population grew to 100, including the town's first newborn, Alwortha Hall, who was born in 1910 to Allensworth residents William and Elizabeth Hall. In 1914, the town also became a voting precinct and a judicial district, with both a justice of the peace and constable. 2 general stores, a post office, a library, and a school were established to serve the community. The school was the largest investment for the town, costing $5,000 to build. The one-room school offered classes catering to students ranging from elementary to high school grades, and it had 3 board members, one of which was Allensworth's wife, Josephine, who was its first teacher. An Allensworth business district soon developed, boasting a bakery, a livery stable, a drugstore, a barber shop, a machine shop, several other stores, and even a hotel. But the town truly was an agricultural community, which depended on the cultivation of sugar beets, cotton, alfalfa, and grain. Black farmers also raised chickens, turkeys, dairy cattle, and Belgian hares. These enterprises required a lot of water, and for the first few years, the town flourished, with the population peaking at 300 settlers by the early 1920s. The community started a slow decline following a tragic incident in September 1914. Colonel Allensworth sought to expand his eponymous town further. This involved a lecture circuit that took him to various Black churches throughout California, where he spoke passionately to congregants in an effort to raise more funds and attract new residents. While in Monrovia, California to give one of his usual lectures, the colonel stepped off a streetcar and was immediately struck down by a speeding motorcyclist. The colonel died within 24 hours. The Allensworth community was devastated, but it carried on under the leadership of the Justice of the Peace and co-founder Professor William Payne, but the colonel could not be replaced. By 1920, William Payne, who served as a school principal, was gone. He moved to El Centro for a teaching job. Allensworth's widow, Josephine, moved to Los Angeles the same year to live with her daughter, Nella. After 1925, a mass exodus started when the Pacific Farming Company failed to supply enough irrigation water to meet the needs of Allensworth's farmers, which led to prolonged legal battles. The water problem began in 1914, after a drought caused white farmers to close in on Allensworth and divert water from a community well. What used to be a well-watered area with water from the Sierra Nevada mountains simply bubbling up out of the earth soon suffered a drop in groundwater levels, which forced residents to drill. But the water eventually dried up. Residents were also forced to move away to find work, and property values in Allensworth bottomed out as a result. Even the racist Santa Fe Railroad, which refused to hire Blacks from Allensworth to man their own station, soon built a new line to bypass the town altogether. Then, in 1966, state officials learned that the remaining groundwater was contaminated with arsenic. By that time, only 34 families remained in Allensworth, and all seemed lost. But in 1969, former Allensworth resident Cornelius Ed Pope, who was a draftsman and planner for the California Department of Parks and Recreation, launched a campaign to create a state historic site at Allensworth. By 1974, the state purchased the land and formed an advisory committee. And later that year, then Governor Ronald Reagan gave the go-ahead to establish the park. In 1976, plans for the development of the 240-acre park were approved, and on October 6, 1976, the park was officially dedicated. Colonel Allensworth State Historic Park is on the National Registry of Historic Places and is a California historical landmark. Unlike many Black communities of the past, which no longer exist, Allensworth can still be visited and experienced. The official website of the state park leaves us with this picture of Allensworth. Today, a collection of lovingly restored and reconstructed early 20th century buildings, including the Colonel's House, historic schoolhouse, Baptist church, and library, once again dots this flat farm country, giving new life to the dreams of these visionary pioneers. I would love to hear what you think, so leave a comment below. Also, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified of new video releases, which will feature my progress, historical profiles, and other info. You can also purchase coloring pages from my Etsy shop, and follow me on Facebook.
All right. So, how many of you have ever heard of Colonel Allensworth? Nobody, right? When we talk about Black history, we don't get to narrate what gets included in Black history. Why aren't our children being given stories of Black pioneers who defied the odds and said, I'm going to start my own thing here in America. I don't have to join them. I can beat them at their own game. And here you got a man who was a former slave, who was formerly enslaved. How do you muster the ambition as a formerly enslaved person to start your own city? Yet you had all of these white people who weren't under any captivity whatsoever, were free to engage in all types of commerce. Yet we see right after enslavement, African American men and women prospering. Where did this knowledge come from? How do they know how to speculate land? How do they know how to build businesses? How do they know how to establish a municipality? African people, we have always fought against the system. Ever since we were brought here, we have fought to maintain our culture, maintain our history, maintain our sense of community. And right now that is being threatened. The vanguard of Black leadership that was focused on this aspect of the Black liberation struggle, self-determination, those people are by and large gone. What we're left with is an overabundance of Black leaders who are all pushing an idealized form of integration as the solution or the end goal for Black liberation. I don't know many Black people who see a utopia of Black and white people, something that white people are going to just usher in. That is swimming upstream. We've been in an integrated environment for 70 something years at this point, and we've seen the glass ceiling. We've been forced to embrace every aspect of European culture, and we now are seeing the consequences of that within our own culture. We are seeing the consequences of African people behaving like European people, of African people raising their children like European people, that our children are taking on the same mental illnesses that we see white people under. It is time for us to pull back. It is time for us to re-examine our strategies for African liberation and to assess what is still working, what needs to be, fixed, but we can't continue to go down that same path. It's going to lead to more and more destruction. And eventually, without our culture, who are we? Who wants to be a completely vanquished culture? Right now, African American culture is being so diluted that it's becoming very hard to distinguish African American culture from white American culture, all the way down to dancing. And I know that may sound trivial to you, but when I was growing up, we had house parties. People actually danced. Now, you don't even, that whole element of our culture, dance, is being just completely erased. Simple dance. Look how important dance is in African culture. We saw them dancing, making houses for each other. We saw them making music and dancing, fixing the mosque, the Grand Mosque. Drumming, essential element of African culture. You have historic African American communities like Harlem that have been gentrified, and they used to have the drummers drum on Sunday evening in Marcus Garvey Park in Harlem. When the white people moved around the park, Marcus Garvey Park, and those big, beautiful brownstones, they worked to get the damn drummers to stop drumming on Sunday evenings because that's not part of their culture, but moved into our culture and dismantled the culture. Child rearing. I never saw black kids talk back to black parents and all of this and all of that like we see now. We have been trained, you better raise your children like white people raise their children. If you try to discipline your children how you normally done, that worked, we're gonna lock you up. When you look at the schools, during the civil rights movement, black people, black students fought tooth and nail to establish African studies, African American studies programs all across the country, African American studies programs at universities all across the country. Ever since then, white people have been working to reverse all of that. And what have black people been doing? Standing on the sidelines. So now you think that your children know all about the history of black and white people in this country, but yet you ain't taught them. And we think they're just going to get it through osmosis. By establishing our own city, we have the ability to now control our own education system. So long as we pass those standardized tests that they make all the students take, we get 100% of the per pupil allocations for all of the students that are in our city. We can provide whatever cultural training that we want. We have the opportunity right now in America to show the world this is who African people are. Given the ability to govern ourselves, to develop our own society along our own worldview and guiding principles, this is what it would look like. This is what we have the ability to do, to stand on our own instead of stand under somebody else's umbrella. You have so many African people in this country right now, in this world, who are ambitious, who love being Black, and they're looking for guidance. They're looking for some type of reference within the African community that speaks to what they want as a Black person. We have to be able to provide that. I want my children going to school with other Black children who enjoy being Black, who are being fed positive images of being Black. I want to live in an environment in which when I go to the hospital, it's a doctor that we pay for. It's free health care. I know that I'm gonna get a doctor who knows the African body. I know I'm not gonna get a racist doctor who's gonna kill me on the operating table. This is what we're fighting for. Dr. Coretta Scott King said it best. She said, freedom is never won. You got to fight for it and win it in every single generation. In every single generation. Our enemies just don't disappear. They regroup. And that's what they've done. You got the first Black president in American history, and then right after that, you get the backlash. You get the most racist president in 100 years. So the moment we think we've gone leaps and leaps in the future by electing a Black president, white people show us through Donald Trump, not so fast. Not so fast. When you look at the amount of racist violence against Black people since the ascendancy of Donald Trump, I mean, it's like 800 times the number. He represents the white racists within the most liberal of white people. Barack Obama was a wake-up call to the white liberal and to the white moderate that there's a very real possibility that in your lifetime, we will lose all of these privileges that racism has bestowed upon white people. And there may be a time in your lifetime where you're going to have to compete fair and square with Black people and other minorities. Can you compete if you unhandcuff these people? Can you compete? Can you compete if racism is dismantled? If your advantage is gone, can you really compete on a level playing field? I don't think they want to answer that question. I don't think they want to answer that question. The water in Allensworth was diverted from them. And then the water that they dug themselves was poisoned with arsenic. Our liberal white friends are our friends so long as they are still receiving the benefit of racism. So long as they feel secure in their position. The moment they feel like, we're not getting the advantage that we used to, look what they did in Martin Luther King's time, which prompted him to make the quote, I believe he said something, our friends are not judged by what they say, but in the moment of what they silent by. And he watched all of these liberal friends abandon him when he started talking about fair economic distribution of wealth, a poor people's campaign, going against the Vietnam War. It is absolutely inevitable that African people return to the world stage of leadership. The earth itself is beckoning it. We're seeing the collapse of the West because the world itself can no longer absorb the exploitation that has come from Western imperialism. Something has to change. There has to be a new world leadership that will put together policies that can truly repair our planet. It is not going to happen under the leadership of a people who have no favorable connection to Earth or the environment. And this is very critical for us to understand as a people. We are the children of the sun. We truly were given Eden, the land of Eden. That's Africa. That's the Nile Valley. And because of that, African people have the greatest respect for the land, the earth, its animals, than any other people on the planet. When you look at African spirituality, they've elevated animals to deities. They've combined the animal form with the human form, showing a level of respect that elevates these animals to a position of intelligence just alongside human beings. They deified the water. If you read the 42 laws of Ma'at, doing anything to pollute the water was against God. If you look at all of the monuments, if you look at the entire footprint of ancient Kemet, everything they built was biodegradable. Everything. What did they do that was destroying the community around them? Absolutely nothing. And they were able to achieve architectural feats without the assistance of power tools, electricity, or they maybe even had electricity, but an alternative means of creating it that didn't destroy the environment. The only way for African people to be fully liberated, mind, body, and soul, is we have to be self-determining people. That there's no other way. That's what we're heading for with the Black Achievement Fund. For those of you who are already members, I want to thank you for your membership. Right now, I want to remind you that we are still raising capital for our first collectively owned guest house on our collectively owned land. So if you have not made your contribution, please make your contribution. For the month of September, we are seeking to raise $4,000. We are on our way to 7,000. All right, so we need those donations to keep coming in. We need those donations to keep coming in. If you can't pay, $250 at one time or $150 at one time, you can hit monthly. You can pay as low as $10 a month, $15 a month, $20 a month, or a custom amount. And you also, you can log in and edit your recurring donation at any time. All right, so please, please, please make your donation. For all of you who have contributed, I want to thank you once again. We just got another big $1,000 donation from our sister Varies Weeks from New York. Whoop, 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 whoop. So, make your contributions, give whatever you can, understand that every dime, every dollar counts, okay? We have been able to do more than what I could have imagined with a small group of people. So know that you make a difference. $9 makes a difference, all right? We wouldn't be here without those $9 coming in. So know that you're making a difference, and you're making a difference right now, all right? We don't want you standing on the sidelines. If you believe in what we're doing, if you believe that our strategy is the right strategy, put your money towards it. Show and prove. But the only way that we're going to get to African liberations, we have to save ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it. And we keep seeing this week after week after week. With every attempt that we make, there's somebody working to undo what we're doing. But yet, think about Black people. Are we working to stop white people from doing anything? Absolutely not. That's the crazy thing. I don't know one Black person who's working to prevent white people from learning about white history, trying to prevent white people from getting access to capital. I don't know no Black people sitting around doing that. But this is what gets pushed on to us because of the fear of our brilliance, all right? So we need you guys to show up and show out. Let's get this money raised for this house. I can't wait to build it. I would love to have this house built by the next Juneteenth. So when we come, we can be up in our house partying, so on and so forth. We made it happen with our land purchase, so we have to do it again. So if you made money, if you contributed to phase one, which was buying the land, we need you to contribute again, all right? Now we got to build a house on the land. Every bit of development that we do to this land increases the overall value of the land. Let me give you an example. We bought the land in October of 2023. The land is currently valued for $55,000. The land is currently valued for $150,000. If the Black Achievement Fund sold that land right now, we make 100 G's that we could take and do something else, but we're not going to sell it because we're developing our community. But I just want you guys to see the power of collective economics, the investment power of real estate. And this is why the Black Achievement Fund is a real estate development corporation. All right, we're right at 3 o'clock. I want to stop here. We have members from out of town who came in for our camp out this weekend. So I got to hang out with them a little bit. Thank you guys for joining us today.
Key,
Yes,
before you leave, Jeff asked a question.
sure.
Brother Arkey and BAF family, it may be very insightful to check out the YouTube video named, Sharif Bey, Who Are the Moors of 2024? A video interview by Black Magic, something, something, something. Perhaps at another time we can have a discussion.
Send it to me directly, please, so I can check it out and get it on the info session.
Will do.
I may call you to lead the info session on it, by the way.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
All right. Don't forget, people, that we have our monthly members meeting today at 4 p.m. All right. It is not live streamed on our YouTube. We want all of our members to at least come to one monthly membership meeting to see what goes on, the type of information that we share with our members. And for those of you who may have some questions that you want answered about the Black Achievement Fund, our monthly members meeting is the opportunity to do so. You can catch me personally. All right. And that will be at
Brother
4.
Caleb wants his hand up.
Hey, Brother Caleb, you have the floor. Brother Caleb, you have the floor.
You're muted. Okay, his hand is down, so maybe not.
Okay. Well, Brother Caleb, I don't know if you can hear me. I don't see your hand anymore, but if you have a question, just give me a call directly, brother. All right. All right. Thank you, everybody. See you at 4 o'clock. More power to the people.
All power to the
Hug.
people. Hugs, family.
Shay, and a hug for everyone.
Let's say.
There you
Thank
go.
you.